I was cleaning my rifle when my phone rang. Not the one I give to friends, the other one. The one that only rings when something's gone horribly wrong. I saw my ex-wife's name, and my stomach dropped. She never calls. Not unless. Ivy's in the hospital. Clara's voice cracked through the speaker. They hurt her, Adrian. They hurt our baby. The world stopped. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. 20 minutes later, I was breaking every speed limit to get to county medical. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my mind was chaos. Ivy, my 17-year-old daughter. The girl who still laughed at my bad jokes and texted me photos of her coffee art. What did Clara mean by they? I parked illegally and ran through the emergency entrance. Clara was in the waiting room, mascara streaked down her face, hands shaking around a cold cup of coffee. When she saw me, she collapsed into my chest. "Third floor," she whispered. "Room 347. Adrian, it's bad." I took the stairs 3 at a time. The officer standing outside Ivy's room barely glanced at me. Inside, machines beeped steadily. And there she was, my little girl, wrapped in white sheets, her face swollen and bruised, and 4 in her arm. I couldn't breathe. "Dad." Her voice was so small. I crossed the room and took her hand, careful not to hurt her. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." She tried to smile, but winced. Her lip was split. There were finger-shaped bruises on her neck. Finger-shaped. Someone had put their hands on my daughter. What happened? I kept my voice soft, but inside, something ancient and cold was waking up. Ivy's eyes filled with tears. I was walking home from Emma's house. "It was still light out, Dad. I promise I was careful. I know you were a sweetheart." This car pulled up. 3 guys. They asked for directions, and I told them I didn't know. Then one of them grabbed me. She was shaking now. They dragged me into the alley behind the old warehouse on 5th Street. They said I was too pretty to walk around without showing respect. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth would crack. The one in charge, he had these cold eyes. He kept calling himself Dominic. He said he runs this neighborhood, and everyone pays tribute. When I said I didn't have money, she couldn't finish. I squeezed her hand gently. "You don't have to say it." "He beat me, Dad." He laughed while he did it. Then he just left me there. Said if I told anyone, he'd come back and finish the job. Clara appeared in the doorway, fresh tears on her face. "The doctor said she has 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and internal bruising. They're keeping her for observation." I nodded slowly, never taking my eyes off Ivy. "Did you call the police?" I asked. Clara's expression turned bitter. "They came, took a statement, said they'd look into it. But the officer," I swear, Adrian, when I mentioned the name Dominic, his whole face changed. He got nervous. Started making excuses about gang violence being hard to prosecute. "What does that mean?" Ivy whispered. "It means the cops are scared," I said quietly. "Or bought." I stood up and walked to the window. The city spread out below me, the same city I'd returned to after 12 years in the Navy. I thought I was done with violence. Done with hunting. Done with being the thing that goes bump in the night. I'd been a Navy SEAL sniper. 6 deployments. 37 confirmed kills. I knew how to find people who didn't want to be found. I knew how to make them afraid. I knew how to end them. But I'd promised myself I was finished with that life. I looked back at Ivy. Her beautiful face, destroyed. Her spirit, broken. That promise just became irrelevant. "Dad." Ivy's voice pulled me back. "What are you thinking?" I walked back to her bedside and kissed her forehead. "I'm thinking you need to rest. And I'm thinking that Dominic made a mistake today." "What kind of mistake?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "He hurt someone I love. And he has no idea who he just made an enemy of." Clara touched my arm. "Adrian, don't do anything crazy. Let the police handle it." I looked at her. "The police won't handle it. You just said so yourself. Then what are you going to do?" I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a contact I hadn't called in 3 years. Victor, my old spotter. The guy who'd watched my back through a dozen ops in places that don't officially exist. The phone rang twice. Adrian, that you, Ghost? Victor's voice was rough but alert. We'd called me Ghost because I could disappear and reappear without anyone knowing I was there. Yeah, it's me. I need information on a local gang leader named Dominic. Operates around 5th Street. I need everything. Where he sleeps, who he works with, what he's afraid of. There was a pause. You back in the game? Someone heard Ivy. Another pause, longer this time. I'll have a file for you by morning. And Adrian, welcome back. I hung up and looked at my daughter. She was watching me with wide eyes. Dad, you're scaring me a little. I sat down beside her again and took her hand. Good men do nothing, evil wins. But I'm not a good man, Ivy. I'm something else. And Dominic is about to learn that. Clara left the room, probably to call her lawyer or therapist or whoever she talks to when life gets messy. I stayed with Ivy until she fell asleep, her hand in mine. Then I walked out into the hospital parking lot and stood under the fluorescent lights. Somewhere in this city, Dominic was probably celebrating, probably felt powerful, probably thought he could do whatever he wanted without consequences. I pulled out my other phone, the one I'd kept locked in a safe for 3 years. The one with encrypted contacts and access to networks that don't show up on any government database. I typed a single message. The Ghost is active. Target, Dominic. Location, 5th Street. Mission, Fear First. Justice Second. 3 replies came back within minutes. I smiled in the darkness. Dominic had no idea what was coming, but he was about to learn that some fathers aren't bound by laws. Some fathers were trained by the best military in the world to eliminate threats. And some fathers never stop being snipers. They just choose better targets. Victor's file arrived at 6 a.m. I hadn't slept. I sat in my kitchen, coffee growing cold, studying the face of the man who'd hurt my daughter. Dominic Kane, 28 years old. No official employment, but owned 3 luxury cars and a penthouse downtown. The math wasn't hard. The file was thorough. Victor had pulled surveillance photos, financial records, known associates. Dominic ran protection rackets through 6 neighborhoods. Small businesses paid him monthly or faced consequences. The police reports were there too, dozens of them. Assaults, threats, extortion, all dropped or dismissed. One name kept appearing in the paperwork, Detective Marcus Holland. Every case involving Dominic's crew somehow landed on his desk, and every case mysteriously fell apart. I memorized the addresses. Dominic's penthouse, his mother's house in the suburbs, 3 nightclubs he frequented, a warehouse where his crew handled business. My phone buzzed. Clara, how's Ivy? I asked. Awake. Asking for you. But Adrian. Her voice dropped. 2 men were in the parking garage this morning. They were just standing there, watching the hospital entrance. One of them matched the description Ivy gave. My blood went cold. Where are you now? Still in her room. I called security, but by the time they got here, the men were gone. I'm coming back. Don't leave that room. I grabbed my keys, but my phone rang again. Unknown number. Yes. Mr. Adrian? The voice was young, shaky. My name is Kyle. I work at Martinez Grocery on 5th Street. I heard what happened to your daughter. I'm sorry. Why are you calling me? Because Dominic came by my store this morning. He was bragging about teaching some girl a lesson. He doesn't know she's your daughter yet, but Kyle hesitated. Look, I pay him protection money every month. If I don't, he burns down my store. Half the block pays him. We're all terrified. Why tell me this? Because somebody needs to stop him. And I heard you used to be military. Special forces or something. People are talking. I closed my eyes. 3 hours and word was already spreading. Small towns were like that. Everyone knew everyone's business. What else did Dominic say? That he's untouchable. That Detective Holland makes sure nothing sticks. And that if anyone has a problem with him, they can end up like... Kyle's voice cracked. Like your daughter. I was silent for a long moment. Kyle, thank you for calling. Keep your head down. Wait, are you going to do something? Yes. What? Something he won't forget. I hung up and drove back to the hospital. This time, I parked in a different spot and entered through the service entrance. Old habits. Always have an exit strategy. Clara met me in the hallway. Did you see anyone suspicious? No. But they were here. They wanted us to know. Adrian, I'm scared. I looked at her, really looked at her. We'd been divorced for 5 years, but I still cared about her. She'd married me when I was a ghost who disappeared for months at a time. She'd left because she couldn't live with the emptiness I brought home. Take Ivy to your sister's place in Oregon. Today, we can't just run. Yes, you can. This isn't about running. It's about keeping her safe while I handle this. Handle it how? I didn't answer. Instead, I walked into Ivy's room. She was sitting up, eating applesauce, trying to act normal. But I saw the fear in her eyes when she looked at me. Hey, kiddo. Hey, Dad. She put down the spoon. Mom says we're leaving town. Just for a little while. Think of it as a vacation. I don't want to run away from him. I sat on the edge of her bed. You're not running. You're letting me work. There's a difference. What kind of work? The kind I'm good at. She studied my face. You're going after him, aren't you? Ivy, don't lie to me, Dad. I'm not a kid anymore. I saw what those men did. I know what Dominic is capable of. And I know you're not just going to let this go. She was right. She wasn't a kid anymore. The beating had stolen that from her too. I'm going to make sure he never hurts anyone again, I said carefully. How? By reminding him that there are still people in this world he should be afraid of. Ivy reached for my hand. Promise me something. Anything. Don't become like him. Don't become a monster just to stop a monster. Her words hit me harder than I expected. That's what Clara used to say. That's why she'd left. She was terrified I'd bring the darkness home and never shake it off. I promise, I said. I'll do this the right way. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure what the right way was anymore. By noon, Clara and Ivy were on a plane to Portland. I watched them go through security, then returned to my truck. Time to go hunting. I drove to 5th Street and parked 3 blocks from Martinez Grocery. The neighborhood looked tired, faded buildings, broken sidewalks, people walking with their heads down. Fear had a smell, and this place reeked of it. Kyle's store was small but clean. He was behind the counter, ringing up a customer. When he saw me, his face went pale. I waited until the customer left, then approached. I need to know where Dominic is right now. Kyle glanced at the door nervously. He usually rolls through around 3. Collections. Does he come alone? No. Always has 2 guys with him. Big guys. One carries a bat. Show me where he parks. Kyle led me outside and pointed to a spot near the alley. Right there. Every Tuesday and Friday. I checked my watch. 2:45. Go back inside. Lock the door. Don't come out until I'm gone. What are you going to do? I didn't answer. Kyle hurried back into his store. I heard the deadbolt click. I walked to my truck and pulled out a small black case from under the seat. Inside were tools I hadn't touched in years. A laser designator, a high-powered spotting scope, and something else, a small device that looked like a car remote. I moved into position across the street, behind a dumpster with a clear line of sight to where Dominic would park. At 3:05, a black Escalade rolled up. Gold rims, tinted windows, music thumping. 3 men got out. The 2 bodyguards were massive, exactly as described. And then him, Dominic. Gold chains, designer clothes, a smile that made my trigger finger itch. He walked toward Kyle's store like he owned it. I pressed a button on the remote. Nothing happened for 3 seconds. Then every tire on the Escalade exploded simultaneously. The bodyguards spun around, hands going to their waistbands. Dominic froze. I aimed the laser designator. A tiny red dot appeared on Dominic's chest, right over his heart. He looked down, saw it. His eyes went wide. The dot moved slowly up to his forehead, then disappeared. Dominic's face drained of color. He'd seen enough movies. He knew what that meant. Somewhere, someone had him in their crosshairs. And they'd just decided not to pull the trigger. Get in the car, he screamed at his crew. Boss, the tires, I don't care. Move. They scrambled into the Escalade and drove away on the rims, sparks flying, metal grinding against pavement. I packed up my equipment and disappeared before anyone could process what had happened. Kyle's face appeared in the store window, eyes huge. I gave him a single nod, then left. Dominic didn't know who I was yet, but now he knew something worse. Someone was watching. Someone with skills. Someone who could have ended him, but chose not to. The fear had begun. I spent the next 48 hours becoming invisible. That's what they trained us for, to observe without being seen, to move through spaces like smoke. Dominic's world was about to become a nightmare, and he wouldn't understand why. I started with his routine. Every criminal has one, no matter how careful they think they are. Dominic left his penthouse at 10 every morning, hit the gym by 11, then made his rounds collecting money. He ate lunch at the same Italian place on 7th Street. Dinner at various clubs he owned pieces of. Predictable, sloppy, arrogant. On Wednesday night, I followed him to a nightclub called Apex. He arrived with 4 bodyguards, walked past the line like royalty, disappeared inside. I watched from across the street, counting exits, noting security cameras, memorizing faces. At midnight, I made my move. I slipped into the alley behind the club. 2 guards stood by the back exit, smoking cigarettes, laughing about something. I could take them both in under 10 seconds, but that wasn't the play. Not yet. Instead, I climbed the fire escape of the adjacent building. Second nature. Silent steps, controlled breathing, eyes scanning for threats. From the roof, I had a perfect view into Dominic's VIP section through the skylight. He was surrounded by women and yes men, champagne flowing, music pounding. He looked relaxed, safe. I pulled out a small drone, military grade, nearly silent. I'd borrowed it from Victor's collection. It carried a single payload, a photograph. The photo showed Dominic leaving the alley on 5th Street 3 days ago. The timestamp was visible. So was Ivy's blood on the ground behind him. I programmed the drone's path and launched it. It descended through the skylight gap, hovering 15 feet above Dominic's table. Then it released the photo. The picture floated down like a feather, landing directly in his champagne glass. The music was too loud for anyone to hear the drone. By the time Dominic noticed the photo, I'd already recalled the device and packed it away. I watched through binoculars as he picked up the soaked photograph. His expression changed from confusion to recognition to pure terror. He looked up at the skylight, looked around wildly, started yelling at his guards. I smiled in the darkness and left. Thursday morning, I visited an old friend. Lincoln Hayes ran a private investigation firm downtown. We'd served together in Afghanistan. He owed me his life after Kandahar, and he never forgot it. Adrian. He stood from his desk, hand extended. Been too long, brother. I need information on Detective Marcus Holland. Lincoln's smile faded. Holland? He's dirty as they come. What's your angle? He's protecting someone who hurt Ivy. Lincoln's jaw tightened. Say no more. Give me 24 hours. Make it 12. He nodded. You going kinetic on this? Only if I have to. The Adrian I knew never did anything halfway. The Adrian you knew didn't have a daughter. Lincoln pulled out his laptop. Holland's been on the force 15 years. Gambling debts, messy divorce, kid in private school he can't afford. Classic corruption profile. Word is he's got protection from someone higher up. How high? Don't know yet, but I'll find out. I left Lincoln's office and headed to my next stop, Dominic's mother's house in the suburbs. I wasn't going inside. Wasn't going to threaten her. That's not who I was. But I needed Dominic to understand something. I knew everything about his life. Every person he cared about. Every place he felt safe. None of it was safe anymore. I parked down the street and waited. At 2 p.m., Dominic's mother, a small woman with gray hair, came out to water her garden. Sweet. Normal. Completely unaware her son was a predator. I left an envelope in her mailbox. Inside was a single sentence written in block letters. Your son hurt an innocent girl. Keep him away from innocent people, or others will. No threats, No violence. Just truth. I was gone before she finished watering the roses. That night, Victor called. Your boy Dominic is spiraling. Word on the street is he's convinced someone's hunting him. He's doubled his security, stopped going to half his usual spots. One of his crew already quit. Good. Adrian, what's the endgame here? You planning to ghost him permanently? I was quiet for a moment. Ivy's words echoed in my head. Don't become a monster. No. I'm planning to break him. Make him so afraid that he turns himself in or runs so far he never comes back. Psychological warfare. Your specialty. It's cleaner than the alternative. And if he doesn't break, then I'll reevaluate. Victor laughed darkly. Man, I don't miss the old days, but I sure as hell miss working with you. You're an artist. I'm a father. There's a difference. Is there? I hung up and stared at my reflection in the window. Victor was right to ask. The line between justice and revenge was thinner than most people realized, and I was walking it like a tightrope. My phone buzzed. Clara, Ivy wants to talk to you. A moment later, my daughter's voice filled my ear. Dad, are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart. How are you feeling? Better. Aunt Monica is taking good care of us. But Dad, I've been thinking. About what? About what you said. About reminding him there are people he should fear. Did you find him yet? I found him. And he's learning. Ivy was silent for a beat. Promise me you're being careful. Always. I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo. Get some rest. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my truck, watching Dominic's penthouse across the city. Lights blazed from every window. Extra security walked the perimeter. He was afraid now. Really afraid. But fear wasn't enough. Not yet. Tomorrow, I'd show him what a ghost could really do. Friday night, Dominic made a mistake. He went to collect money from a bar owner named Grant on Maple Street. 3 bodyguards, same Escalade with new tires, same arrogant swagger. But this time I was waiting. I'd spent the afternoon rigging the entire block. Nothing illegal, nothing lethal, just enough to make him question reality. Grant's bar sat on a corner with poor lighting. Perfect. I'd positioned myself on a rooftop 2 buildings down with a clear view of everything. Dominic walked into the bar at 9 p.m. sharp. His guard stayed outside, leaning against the Escalade, scrolling through phones. I activated the first device, a motion sensor I'd placed in the alley beside the bar. It triggered a series of small speakers hidden in dumpsters and doorways. The sound was subtle at first. Footsteps. Heavy boots on concrete. Getting closer. One guard looked up. You hear that? The second guard shook his head. Hear what? Sounded like someone walking. I increased the volume slightly. Now all 3 guards heard it. They pulled away from the car, hands moving toward concealed weapons, scanning the empty alley. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then a single word whispered through the speakers, barely audible. Run. The guards froze. One of them pulled his gun. Who's there? He shouted into the darkness. No response. Just wind and distant traffic. Inside the bar, Dominic was shoving Grant against the wall, screaming about late payments. Through my scope, I could see the fear in Grant's eyes. The same fear Ivy must have felt. I pressed another button. Every light on the block went out simultaneously. Total darkness. The backup generator I disabled earlier guaranteed it would stay dark for at least 10 minutes. Shouting erupted from inside the bar. Dominic's voice carried through the night. What the hell is going on? His guards scrambled for their flashlights. I waited until all 3 beams were pointing in different directions, then used my laser designator again. 3 red dots appeared, 1 on each guard's chest. Moving slowly, deliberately. Boss, one of them screamed. We got lasers. Multiple shooters. Dominic burst out of the bar, eyes wild. Where? The dots disappeared the moment he emerged. They were just here. I swear, boss, there were. Shut up. Dominic spun in circles, trying to see into every shadow. Get me out of here. Now. They piled into the Escalade. The engine roared to life. That's when I triggered the finale. For cars parked along the street. all owned by Dominic's associates, according to Victor's intel, suddenly had their alarms blaring in perfect synchronization. Lights flashing, horns screaming, chaos erupting. The Escalade peeled out, tires squealing, nearly hitting a parked truck. I watched them disappear down Maple Street, then packed my equipment and vanished into the night. Grant emerged from the bar, phone to his ear, probably calling everyone he knew to spread the story. By morning, the entire neighborhood would hear about the ghost who scared Dominic Kane into running like a terrified child. Saturday morning, Lincoln called with the file on Detective Holland. "You're not going to like this," he said. "Holland's connected to someone big. Deputy Chief Warren Ellis. They go way back, served together in the Army before Holland joined the force. Ellis is protecting Holland. More than that, Ellis is the reason Holland's cases disappear. But here's where it gets interesting. Ellis has a nephew who works for Dominic. Kid named Blake. Runs deliveries, handles communications. The pieces click together. A dirty deputy chief protecting a corrupt detective protecting a gang leader connected to his own family. A perfect circle of corruption. Can you prove it? Working on it. But Adrian, if you're planning to expose this, you need hard evidence. These guys have lawyers and union reps. They'll bury you. Then I'll get evidence. How? By making them panic. Panicked people make mistakes. I hung up and drove to a location Victor had marked in the file, a warehouse where Dominic's crew stored stolen goods. It was empty during weekends, minimal security. I didn't break in, didn't steal anything, didn't leave a trace. Instead, I placed a small camera inside an air vent with a view of the main floor. High definition, motion activated, streaming directly to an encrypted server. If they used this place for anything illegal, I'd have footage. Then I left a note taped to the loading dock door. Smile. You're on camera. Simple. Effective. Guaranteed to make Dominic lose his mind. By Sunday, the neighborhood was buzzing with rumors. I sat in a coffee shop on 3rd Street, listening to conversations around me. People were talking about the vigilante scaring Dominic's crew. Some thought it was a rival gang. Others whispered about federal agents. A few believed it was a ghost, literally supernatural. Nobody suspected a quiet man in his 40s drinking black coffee and reading the newspaper. My phone buzzed. Victor. Dominic just fired 2 of his guards. Called them cowards. His whole operation is falling apart. People are refusing to work for him because they think they're being watched. They are being watched. Yeah, but Adrian, here's the thing, someone else noticed. Blake, the deputy chief's nephew, started asking questions. He's smart. Military background. He might figure out this isn't random. Let him figure it out. You want him to know? I want Dominic to know. Soon. Once he realizes who I am, the real fear starts. Victor was quiet for a moment. You're playing with fire, brother. I've been playing with fire my whole life. This is just another op. Except this time, it's personal. That's what makes it different. I finished my coffee and headed home. On my kitchen table sat a manila envelope that had been delivered while I was out. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. Ivy walking to school 3 months ago, before everything happened. Someone had been watching her even then. And written on the back in red ink, "We know where she is now too." My blood turned to ice. They'd found Clara's sister's address in Portland. I called Clara immediately. "Pack your things. Get Ivy. You're moving again. Tonight." "Adrian, what's wrong? They know where you are?" "I'm sending coordinates to a safe house Victor maintains in Montana. Go there. Don't tell anyone. Not even your sister." "Oh God, Clara, listen to me. You have 2 hours. Move fast, move quiet. I'll handle this." I hung up and stared at the photograph. Dominic had just made his second mistake. The first was hurting my daughter. The second was threatening her again. Now the gloves were coming off. Monday morning, I stopped playing defense. Blake was the key. Deputy Chief Ellis's nephew, Dominic's communications guy, former Army intelligence. If anyone in that organization had the skills to identify me, it was him. So I made it easy. I sent an anonymous email to Blake's personal account. No threats, no demands, just a file containing 3 things: my military service number, a newspaper clipping from 2018 about a Navy SEAL sniper receiving a commendation, and a photo of me in uniform. Then I waited. It took him 4 hours. Victor called at noon. Blake just went to Dominic's penthouse. Brought a laptop. They've been locked in there for 20 minutes. Good. Adrian, once they know who you are, they'll understand what they're dealing with. That's the point. I drove to a parking garage across from Dominic's building and set up position on the top level. Through my spotting scope, I had a perfect view into his penthouse windows. At 12:45, I saw movement. Dominic stood in his living room, staring at a laptop screen. Blake was pointing at something, talking fast. Even from this distance, I could read Dominic's body language. Pure terror. He backed away from the laptop like it might explode. Started pacing. Grabbed his phone, made a call, slammed it down. Made another call. His hands were shaking. Blake kept talking, probably explaining what a Navy SEAL sniper could do. The distance I could shoot from. The precision. The training. Dominic collapsed onto his couch, head in his hands. I smiled. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Yes. Is this Adrian? The voice was young, nervous. Blake. It is. Jesus Christ. He exhaled shakily. You're really him. The ghost. 12 years in the SEALs. 6 deployments. 37 confirmed. 38 now, if you count reputations. What do you want, Blake? I want to understand what's happening. Dominic is losing his mind. He thinks you're going to kill him. I haven't decided yet. Silence on the line. Look, Blake continued, I'm not like him. I handle phones and schedules. I don't hurt people. My uncle got me this job because I needed work after I left the army. I didn't know what Dominic really was until he hurt my daughter. Another silence. Longer this time. That was your daughter? Blake's voice cracked. Oh God. I didn't know. Adrian. I swear, I had nothing to do with that. I wasn't even there. But you work for the man who did it. I'm quitting. Today. Right now. I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. I watched through the scope as Blake stood up in the penthouse, grabbed his jacket. Blake, wait. I need something from you first. What? Evidence. Recordings, messages, financial records. Everything that proves your uncle and Detective Holland are protecting Dominic. Everything that puts them all away. You want me to turn on my uncle? I want you to do the right thing. Your uncle chose his side when he protected a man who tortures teenage girls. Now you choose yours. Blake was quiet for a long time. Through the scope, I saw him looking at Dominic, who was now on his phone, screaming at someone. If I do this, Blake said slowly, I need protection. Ellis will kill me if he finds out. You'll have it. Send the files to this email address. I rattled off an encrypted account Victor maintained. Then get out of town. Go somewhere your uncle can't find you. And Dominic? Leave him to me. Blake nodded. I saw it through the scope. The files will be there in an hour. And Adrian? I'm sorry. About your daughter. About all of it. He hung up. I watched him leave the penthouse. Dominic tried to grab his arm, but Blake pulled away and walked out. Now Dominic was alone in his multi-million-dollar cage, finally understanding that money and muscle meant nothing against a trained operator who wanted him afraid. The files arrived 53 minutes later. I opened them on my encrypted laptop in a coffee shop downtown. Blake had delivered everything. Recorded phone calls between Holland and Ellis discussing evidence tampering, text messages coordinating payments to witnesses, financial transfers from Dominic to Holland's offshore accounts. It was enough to bury all 3 of them. But I needed one more piece. I needed Dominic's confession about Ivy. Without that, he might slip through on a lesser charge. I forwarded the files to Lincoln. Get these to the FBI. Keep Blake's name out of it. Say it came from an anonymous source. Already on it. But Adrian, the feds will want to interview you. Tell them I'll cooperate after Dominic is in custody. They won't like that. They don't have to like it. They just have to do their job. I hung up and drove to my house. Inside my safe was equipment I'd hoped never to use again. A tactical vest, night vision goggles, a suppressed pistol, and my old ghillie suit. I laid everything out on my bed and stared at it. This was the moment. The decision point. I could let the FBI handle everything now that I had evidence. Walk away clean. Be the good guy. Or I could finish what I started. My phone buzzed. A text from Clara. We're safe. Ivy wants to know when she can come home. I typed back. Soon. I promise. Another text came through. This one from an unknown number. Your daughter will never be safe. Neither will you. This isn't over. Dominic had just made his third mistake. He'd threatened my family again. After everything. After knowing who I was. I put on the tactical vest and loaded the pistol. Some men never learned. They had to be taught. And I was an excellent teacher. I checked my watch. 9 p.m. Dominic would be at his club in an hour, surrounded by people he thought would keep him safe. He was wrong. Tonight, the ghost stopped haunting. Tonight, the ghost went hunting. I arrived at Apex nightclub at 10:30. The line stretched down the block, people dressed in designer clothes, hoping to get inside Dominic's kingdom. They had no idea their king was about to fall. I didn't use the front entrance. Instead, I moved through the service alley where delivery trucks unloaded supplies. 2 guards stood by the back door, but they were focused on their phones, bored. Sloppy. I scaled the fire escape of the adjacent building, moving silently across the rooftop until I reached the club's ventilation system. The maintenance hatch was locked, but I'd picked harder locks in worse conditions. Inside, the ductwork was tight, but manageable. I crawled through darkness, following the thump of bass music, until I found a vent overlooking Dominic's private VIP area. He was there, surrounded by 6 bodyguards now instead of 4. All of them looked tense, scanning the crowd constantly. Dominic sat in the center, drinking heavily, his earlier confidence completely shattered. I pulled out a small device, a voice modulator connected to the club's sound system. Victor had built it specifically for psychological operations. It could override any speaker in the building for exactly 10 seconds before security protocols kicked in. 10 seconds was all I needed. I waited until the DJ transitioned between songs. That brief moment of near silence. Then I pressed the button. My voice, distorted, amplified, impossible to locate, filled every speaker in the club. Dominic Kane. You have 48 hours to turn yourself into the FBI. Confess what you did to Ivy. If you run, I'll find you. If you hide, I'll find you. There is nowhere you can go that I won't follow. The music cut back in, but the damage was done. The entire club erupted into chaos. People screaming, running for exits, bouncers trying to control the panic. Dominic's bodyguards surrounded him, weapons drawn, spinning in every direction. But I was already moving through the ducts, heading for my exit. By the time security reviewed the footage, all they'd find was a malfunction. A glitch. Nothing traceable. I dropped back into the alley and disappeared into the night. Tuesday morning, the news broke. Federal agents raided Detective Holland's home at dawn. Deputy Chief Ellis was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The story dominated local headlines. Corruption scandal rocks police department. But Dominic wasn't arrested. He'd vanished. Victor called at 8 a.m. He cleared out his penthouse overnight, took 2 guards and disappeared. No credit card activity, no phone pings. He's running. Where would he go? I'm checking his known associates outside the city. Give me a few hours. I hung up and made coffee, thinking through the possibilities. Dominic was smart enough to know that running made him look guilty, but too terrified to stay. He'd go somewhere he felt safe, somewhere connected to his past. My phone rang again. Lincoln, FBI wants to meet with you. Today, they have questions about the anonymous files. Tell them I'll come in tomorrow. I'm busy. Adrian, they're not asking. Tomorrow, Lincoln. I need to finish this first. I ended the call and opened my laptop. Blake's files included more than just evidence. They contained personal information, family connections, properties owned through shell companies. One address stood out, A cabin in northern Michigan, registered under Dominic's mother's maiden name. Remote. Off-grid. Perfect hiding spot. I packed a bag and was on the road within an hour. The drive took 6 hours. I arrived at the cabin just before sunset, parking my truck 2 miles away and hiking through dense forest to approach from the rear. The cabin sat in a clearing beside a small lake. 2 cars parked outside, a rental sedan and a black SUV. Lights blazed from every window. I circled the perimeter, counting hostiles. 4 men total. 2 guards patrolling outside, poorly trained, walking predictable patterns. Dominic and 1 other inside, visible through the kitchen window. I could end this right now. Single shot through the window. Dominic would be dead before he hit the floor. But Ivy's voice echoed in my head. Don't become a monster. I had to do this differently. I waited until midnight when the guards changed positions. 1 went inside for coffee. The other lit a cigarette, standing near the tree line. I moved behind him like smoke. 1 hand over his mouth, the other applying pressure to his carotid artery. He went limp in 7 seconds. I zip-tied his hands and feet, gagged him, dragged him into the woods. The second guard came looking for his partner 5 minutes later. Trent? Where'd you go? Same technique. Same result. Now it was just Dominic and 1 bodyguard inside. I approached the cabin's back door and picked the lock. The hinges were well-oiled, no sound. I slipped inside, pistol raised, moving through darkness toward the voices in the living room. I'm telling you, boss, we should leave the country, the bodyguard was saying. Mexico, Canada, anywhere but here. And go where? Dominic's voice was raw, exhausted. He'll find me. You don't understand what this guy is. He's not human. He's a ghost. He's just a man. He's a Navy SEAL sniper. He's killed terrorists from a mile away. He's hunted people in mountains and deserts and cities. What chance do I have? I stepped into the doorway, pistol aimed at the bodyguard's center mass. None, I said quietly. The bodyguard spun, reaching for his weapon. I fired once. The suppressed round hit his shoulder, spinning him around. He dropped his gun and collapsed, screaming. Dominic froze, hands raised, eyes wide with terror. Please, he whispered. Please don't kill me. I kept the pistol trained on him. On your knees. He dropped immediately, tears streaming down his face. Do you know who I am? I asked. You're Adrian. Ivy's father. The SEAL. Say her name again. Ivy. I heard Ivy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're not sorry. You're scared. There's a difference. I pulled out my phone with my free hand and started recording. You're going to confess. Everything you did to my daughter. Every detail. And then you're going to turn yourself in. I will. I swear, just please, start talking. And he did. Every horrible detail. The attack, the threats, the bribes to Holland. All of it recorded in his own trembling voice. When he finished, I stopped the recording and sent it to Lincoln's secure server. Now get up. We're going to the nearest FBI field office. You're not going to kill me? I looked at him, really looked at him. This pathetic, broken man who'd hurt my daughter because he thought he was untouchable. No, I said. You're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, knowing that I'm out here. Knowing that if you ever get out, I'll be waiting. That's worse than death. Dominic started sobbing. I zip-tied his hands and called Victor. Send local FBI to these coordinates. I'm bringing in Dominic Kane. Copy that. Adrian, you did good. It's not over yet. The FBI arrived 30 minutes later, 3 agents in tactical gear, weapons drawn, expecting a war zone. Instead, they found Dominic zip-tied on the cabin floor, his wounded bodyguard receiving first aid from me, and the 2 other guards still unconscious in the woods. Agent Natalie Ross, the lead investigator, holstered her weapon and stared at me. You're Adrian? I am. We've been looking for you since yesterday. You missed our meeting. I was busy. She glanced at Dominic, then back at me. Did you hurt him? Just his pride. He confessed to everything. It's recorded and uploaded. You'll have it within the hour. Ross nodded slowly, processing the scene. You know we have to take you in for questioning. I know. But first, I want to watch you arrest him. She didn't argue. Two agents hauled Dominic to his feet and read him his rights. He didn't resist, didn't speak, just stared at the ground while they loaded him into their vehicle. Before they closed the door, he looked at me one last time. I really am sorry. About your daughter. No, you're not, I said. You're sorry you got caught. There's still a difference. They drove away, leaving me alone with Agent Ross. We need to talk about the evidence, she said. The files we received yesterday. How did you obtain them? Anonymous source. Former associate of Dominic's, who grew a conscience. Blake Ellis. I said nothing. Ross crossed her arms. Detective Holland and Deputy Chief Ellis are already in custody. They lawyered up immediately, but with the recordings and financial records, they're finished. This whole operation is going to bring down half the department's corruption. Good. But there's a problem. Your methods. Breaking into buildings, hacking sound systems, psychological warfare. Some of what you did crosses legal lines. And some of what I did save lives. How many people were Dominic and his crew terrorizing? How many victims never came forward because the police were bought? Ross was quiet for a moment. The prosecutor wants to offer you immunity in exchange for testimony. You cooperate fully, no charges filed. I'll cooperate. But I have conditions. You're not in a position to negotiate. Blake Ellis gets full witness protection. New identity, relocation, the works. He risked everything to help bring them down. Ross considered this. I can recommend it. What else? Ivy testifies remotely. No courtroom. No facing Dominic again. That's already standard for assault victims her age. Anything else? I shook my head. Then let's go? You're riding with me to the field office. We have a long night ahead. The interrogation lasted 6 hours. They went through everything. How I tracked Dominic, what equipment I used, who helped me. I told them most of it. Not all. Some details were better left classified. Agent Ross was thorough but fair. She understood I'd operated in a gray area, but she also understood why. Your daughter's case is solid now, she said as we finished. Between your recording, Blake's evidence, and the physical evidence from the hospital, Dominic's looking at 20 years minimum. Probably more once other victims come forward. Other victims? 3 women contacted us yesterday after the news broke. They'd been too scared to report Dominic before. Now they're ready to testify. Something loosened in my chest. Justice wasn't just for Ivy anymore. It was for everyone he'd hurt. What about Holland and Ellis? Conspiracy, evidence tampering, accepting bribes. They'll do serious time. Ellis is trying to cut a deal, but the prosecutor isn't interested. I nodded. When can I see my daughter? Tomorrow. We'll need her statement, but after that, she's free to go home. This is over, Adrian. But it didn't feel over. I left the FBI office at dawn and drove straight to Montana, where Clara and Ivy were waiting at Victor's safe house. The cabin sat deep in wilderness, surrounded by pine trees and mountains. Clara met me at the door, exhaustion written across her face. She's been asking for you every hour, Clara said quietly. She knows something happened. Where is she? Upstairs. First door on the right. I climbed the stairs and knocked softly. Come in. Ivy sat on the bed, wrapped in a blanket, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. When she saw me, tears filled her eyes. Dad. I crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. She held on tight, shaking. It's over, I whispered. Dominic's in custody. He confessed everything. He's going to prison for a long time. You found him. I found him. She pulled back, studying my face. Did you hurt him? I thought about lying, making it easier for her. But Ivy deserved the truth. I scared him, made him understand what real fear feels like. But I didn't kill him. I didn't become what he was. Because of what I said, about not becoming a monster. Because of what you said, and because I realized something. Killing him would have been easy. Making him face justice, making him spend decades knowing he lost everything because he hurt you. That's harder. That's real revenge. Ivy was quiet for a long moment. I'm proud of you, Dad. Those 4 words hit me harder than any bullet ever had. I'm proud of you too, I said. You survived something horrible, and you're still here. Still strong. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and moving forward anyway. You did that. You're doing it right now. She smiled. Small, fragile, but real. Can we go home? She asked. Soon. The FBI needs your statement first, but they'll do it remotely. You won't have to see him. And after that, yes, we go home. Will you stay? Not just for a few days. Really stay. I looked at my daughter, this brave, beautiful person who'd been through hell and was still fighting to heal. I'm not going anywhere, I promised. Ever again. 3 days later, we returned home. The house felt different. Quieter, but safe. Ivy started therapy with a trauma specialist. Clara and I worked out a new custody arrangement. More time for me, more stability for Ivy. And I started the long process of leaving my past behind. Not forgetting it. Not denying what I'd been. But choosing what I'd become. Victor called on Sunday. Blake settled into witness protection. New name, new city. He asked me to thank you. Tell him he earned it. And Dominic's arraignment is tomorrow. You planning to attend? I looked at Ivy, sleeping peacefully on the couch, finally resting without nightmares. No, I said. That chapter's closed. I have more important things to focus on now. Good man, Adrian. You did the right thing. After he hung up, I sat beside Ivy and watched her sleep. The ghost had finally found peace. 2 weeks later, I sat in Lincoln's office watching the news coverage of Dominic's trial. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the hallways. 3 additional victims had come forward, their stories eerily similar to Ivy's. Young women terrorized by a man who believed he was untouchable. The prosecution is calling it a slam dunk, Lincoln said, turning down the volume. With your recording, Blake's testimony, and the physical evidence, Dominic doesn't stand a chance. What about Holland and Ellis? Separate trials. Holland took a plea deal yesterday, 15 years in exchange for testimony against Ellis. Ellis is fighting it, but his lawyer knows it's hopeless. They're trying to negotiate down from 30 years to 20. I nodded, watching footage of Dominic being led into the courthouse in shackles. He looked nothing like the arrogant predator who'd hurt my daughter. He looked broken. Hello, Adrian, there's something else. Lincoln pulled out a folder. The FBI finished their investigation into you. Agent Ross recommended no charges. Said you operated within acceptable boundaries given the circumstances. Acceptable boundaries? I raised an eyebrow. Her exact words were, while Mr. Adrian's methods were unorthodox, he gathered evidence legally obtained by a third party and delivered a violent criminal to federal custody without causing permanent harm. His actions, though aggressive, resulted in the exposure of systemic corruption and the protection of future victims. She has a way with words. Lincoln smiled. You're clear, brother. Completely. Relief washed over me. Not for myself. I'd made peace with whatever consequences might come. But for Ivy, she didn't need her father in prison on top of everything else. My phone buzzed. A text from Clara. Ivy's session went well today. Dr. Morgan says she's making real progress. She asked if you could come to dinner tonight. I texted back, I'll be there. That evening, I arrived at Clara's house with groceries for dinner. Ivy met me at the door, looking healthier than she had in weeks. The bruises had faded. The fear in her eyes had softened. Dad, you're early. Wanted to help cook. Your mom still burn everything. Clara appeared from the kitchen, flour on her hands. I heard that. And yes, I do. That's why you're cooking. We fell into an easy rhythm. Me at the stove, Clara setting the table, Ivy chopping vegetables. It felt almost normal. Almost like the family we used to be before deployments and divorce pulled us apart. Dr. Morgan says I can go back to school next week, Ivy announced. If I'm ready. Are you ready? I asked. She considered the question carefully. I think so. I'm still scared sometimes. But Dr. Morgan taught me breathing exercises for when the anxiety gets bad. And she says avoiding things that scare me will only make it worse. She's right. But you don't have to rush. I know. But I want my life back. I want to see my friends, finish my senior year, apply to colleges. I won't let him take that from me. I looked at Clara. Her eyes were wet. That's my girl, Clara whispered. We sat down to dinner. Spaghetti and garlic bread, Ivy's favorite. For the first time in weeks, conversation flowed naturally. We talked about normal things. School, movies, Ivy's college applications. Then Ivy set down her fork and looked at me seriously. Dad, I need to tell you something. What is it? I've been thinking a lot about what happened. About what you did. And I want you to know. I understand why you did it. Clara tensed beside me. Ivy, I started. Let me finish. She took a breath. I was angry at first. Scared you'd get hurt or arrested. But Dr. Morgan helped me see that you were protecting me the only way you knew how. You used your skills for something good. You stopped a bad person and saved other people from getting hurt. That doesn't mean what I did was right. Maybe not legally. But morally? Yeah, Dad. It was right. And I'm grateful. Silence filled the kitchen. Clara reached across the table and squeezed my hand. She's right. I was terrified watching you go down that path again. But you came back. You didn't lose yourself. You remembered who you are beyond the soldier. I had good reasons to come back, I said, looking at both of them. The trial lasted 3 days. I didn't attend. Ivy gave her testimony via video link from a private room at the FBI office, with me and Clara beside her. She was nervous but strong, answering every question clearly and honestly. When the prosecutor asked her how the attack affected her life, Ivy paused. It made me afraid, she said quietly. Afraid to walk alone. Afraid to trust people. Afraid to sleep because of the nightmares. But it also showed me something important, that my dad would do anything to protect me. And that helped me find my own strength. The defense attorney tried to discredit her testimony, suggesting she was confused about details or influenced by me. But Ivy held firm. Every answer was consistent with the medical evidence and my recording. When it was over, Agent Ross called me. The jury deliberated for 40 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Aggravated assault, kidnapping, extortion, witness intimidation. Dominic's looking at 42 years minimum. 42 years, I repeated. He'll be 70 before he's eligible for parole. And with his prison record likely to include additional charges from other inmates who don't take kindly to men who hurt women. Let's just say his life is going to be very difficult. I should have felt satisfaction. Victory. But mostly I just felt tired. What about the other victims? I asked. They're getting justice too. 2 of them are filing civil suits. Dominic's assets are being seized to pay restitution. His whole empire is collapsing. Good. Adrian, there's one more thing. Blake wants to meet with you. Just to say thank you in person. Would you be open to that? I thought about it. Blake had risked everything to help bring down his uncle and Dominic. He deserved closure too. Set it up. Somewhere neutral. Next week. I'll arrange it. That night, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. My phone rang. Victor. Saw the verdict on the news. How you feeling? Like I can finally breathe. Good. You earned this, brother. You went into the darkness and came back clean. Not many of us can say that. I had help. And I had a reason to come back. Ivy, Clara. The chance to be something more than what the military made me. Victor was quiet for a moment. You know what the difference is between you and most operators who retire? You figured out that being a warrior doesn't mean you have to keep fighting. Sometimes the bravest thing is choosing peace. After we hung up, I went inside and found the box I'd stored in my closet. My medals. My commendations. Photos from deployments. I'd kept them hidden for years, ashamed of what they represented. But now I saw them differently. They weren't symbols of violence. They were symbols of service, of sacrifice, of skills I'd used to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. I'd been a warrior. I'd been a ghost. I'd been a hunter. Now I was choosing to be a father. And that was enough. 6 months later, August arrived with golden sunshine and the kind of hope that only comes after surviving darkness. I stood in the driveway, loading boxes into Ivy's car. College move-in day. The moment every parent dreads and celebrates simultaneously. Dad, that's the third time you've reorganized the trunk, Ivy said, laughing. It's not going to fit any better. Just making sure everything's secure. It's a long drive to Oregon. Clara emerged from the house, carrying a final bag. That's the last one. I think we got everything. Ivy looked at both of us, her eyes soft. Thank you. For everything. For fighting for me. For believing in me. For showing me what real strength looks like. I pulled her into a hug. You did the hard part. You survived. You healed. You turned pain into purpose. That's all you, kiddo. I learned from the best. She stepped back, wiping her eyes. Okay, no more crying. This is supposed to be happy. It is happy, Clara said, joining the hug. We're so proud of you. We stood there, the three of us, holding on to each other in the moment, knowing everything was about to change again. But this time, the change felt right. After Ivy left, I returned to my empty house and sat on the porch with coffee, watching the evening settle in. My phone buzzed. A message from Ivy. Made it to campus. Roommate seems cool. Dorm is tiny but perfect. Miss you already. Love you, Dad. I smiled and texted back. Love you too. Call anytime. I'm always here. Another message came through. This one from Victor. Heard Ivy's off to college. How you holding up? Better than expected. I typed. Proud. A little lost. But good. That's called being a parent, brother. You did the hardest job in the world. Letting her go so she could fly. He was right. For years, I defined myself by what I did. Soldier, sniper, operator, protector. But those were just roles. Underneath everything, I was a father. And that identity didn't end when Ivy drove away. It evolved. 2 weeks later, I received an unexpected visitor. Grant, the bar owner from 5th Street, showed up at my door with an envelope. Mr. Adrian, I hope I'm not intruding. Not at all. What can I do for you? He handed me the envelope. The neighborhood took up a collection. We wanted to thank you. I opened it. Inside was a check for $5,000. I can't accept this. Please, Grant interrupted. You saved our community. After Dominic was arrested, everything changed. Businesses aren't paying protection money anymore. Families feel safe. Kids play outside again. You gave us our neighborhood back. I looked at the check, then at Grant's sincere face. Use this money for something good, he continued. Maybe a scholarship fund for Ivy. Or donate it to help other families dealing with trauma. Whatever feels right. An idea formed immediately. I know exactly what to do with it, I said. Thank you, Grant. Tell the neighborhood I said thank you too. 3 days later, I met with Dr. Morgan. I want to start a fund, I told her, for families who can't afford therapy after violent trauma. Ivy's healing showed me how crucial professional help is, but not everyone can access it. Dr. Morgan's face lit up. That's a beautiful idea. What would you call it? The Second Chance Foundation. Because everyone deserves a chance to heal and rebuild. I'd be honored to help coordinate. We could partner with local therapists, create a referral network, cover costs for qualifying families. We spent 2 hours planning. By the end, we had a framework, a genuine way to turn what happened to Ivy into something that helped others. Purpose from pain, just like Ivy had chosen. In September, I received a letter from Blake. Adrian, I heard about the foundation. It's exactly the kind of thing the world needs more of. I wanted you to know that I've enrolled in a counseling program at community college. Your example, and Ivy's, showed me that we can choose who we become after trauma. I'll never stop being grateful for the chance you gave me to do the right thing. I'm building a life worth living now. Thank you for seeing the person I could be, not just the mistakes I made. Blake, I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer alongside Ivy's graduation photo and her acceptance letter. Reminders that redemption was possible, that people could change, that hope always found a way. October brought cooler weather and a phone call from Agent Ross. Thought you'd want to know, Dominic's appeal was denied. 42 years is final. And Ellis just accepted a plea deal. 25 years, no parole eligibility for 15. And Holland, serving his sentence quietly. Word is he's not doing well in prison. Turns out other inmates don't appreciate corrupt cops. Justice has its own system, I said quietly. It does. Adrian, I also wanted to tell you. The department is using your case as a training example. How civilians and law enforcement can work together when the system fails. You've changed how we approach corruption investigations. After we hung up, I realized something profound. I'd gone into this wanting revenge. I'd come out creating change. That was the real victory. Thanksgiving weekend, Ivy came home. She burst through the door with stories about classes, friends, her work with the trauma advocacy program. She was radiant, fully herself again, scars healed into strength. Dad, I have something to show you. She pulled out her laptop and opened a video. It was her first advocacy presentation. Ivy speaking to a room full of students about surviving assault and finding healing. You have a voice, she told the camera. What happened to you doesn't define you. How you respond does. Get help. Find support. Never believe the lie that you're broken beyond repair. I watched my daughter, poised, powerful, unbreakable, and felt tears stream down my face. That's incredible, Ivy. I'm helping people, Dad. Real people who needed to hear they're not alone. It feels right. It is right. You're changing lives. She smiled. So are you. I saw the article about the Second Chance Foundation. 50 families helped so far. 63 as of yesterday. Turns out a lot of people want to support trauma survivors. We make a good team. The best team. That night, after Ivy went to bed, I sat on the porch one final time, looking at the stars. A year ago, I'd been a retired soldier trying to outrun my past. Then tragedy struck, and I'd become something I swore I'd never be again, a hunter in the darkness. But I'd found my way back, not by denying what I was capable of, but by choosing what I'd use those capabilities for. Protection, justice, healing. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Ivy. Dad, I forgot to ask. What kind of stories do you think people want to hear? Like if you were telling someone about what we went through, what would matter most? I thought carefully before responding. Stories about ordinary people finding extraordinary strength. About choosing justice over revenge. About healing being possible even after the worst happens. About love being stronger than fear. She sent back a heart emoji. Then, that's exactly what I'm going to tell them. I smiled and looked up at the stars again. Somewhere out there, other families were facing darkness. Other victims needed hope. Other fathers were deciding who they'd become in their children's worst moments. My story was one answer. Ivy's recovery was another. The foundation was a third. We'd all survived. We'd all chosen healing over hatred. And that message needed to be shared. So let me ask you something. What kind of stories do you want to hear? Stories about betrayal and revenge?